Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Friends, let us all study, investigate, and practice the real words of the Buddha. Tonight, we have another special discourse. The name of the discourse is the Discourse at Vesali, where the Buddha delivered this discourse to a householder named Ugga. Ugga is a very special person in this sasana, in this dispensation. There's a very interesting story about him, how he became a disciple of the Buddha. We are going to talk about that next day. Tonight, we have different aspects about what he asked from the Buddha. So, tonight our topic is based on what he asked, his question. As he went to the Buddha, he asked why some people attain full bliss, Nibbana, here in this very world, very life, and why some others do not attain full bliss here in this very world, in this very life. That was the question. So let's understand, let's come to the discourse and understand the backdrop of the discourse first. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Vesali in the great wood in the hall with the peaked roof. Then the householder Ugga of Vesali approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, stood to one side, and said to him. So he went to the Buddha, went to the monastery, and after paying homage to the Buddha, having stood aside, he asked, Venerable Sir, what is the cause and reason why some beings here do not attain Nibbana, highest bliss, in this very life? And what is the cause and reason why some beings here attain Nibbana, the highest bliss, in this very life? That was the question. Here, some beings, he asked some beings. Though he used the term beings, friends, other beings cannot attain enlightenment. Only humans have that opportunity. Nowhere else, in accordance with the Buddhist cosmology, there are 31 realms in the universe. Beings are born in these 31 realms, though only humans have this opportunity to attain full bliss. It is here. Why it is here? Just think of other beings, hungry ghosts, hells, animals. They cannot. Even devas, brahmas, they have no six senses like us. You have to have six senses to realize what is called dukkha, what is called suffering. Devas, they don't feel that suffering that much because they have no corporeality, no body like us. They have no six sense bases like us. The Brahmas the same. Nothing to talk about hungry ghost and other beings. So humans have that opportunity to attain full bliss here in this very life, in this very world. So the Buddha's answer, let's see the Buddha's answer. Buddha said, there are householder forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing and tantalizing. This is how in the world there are many things you can see. Through the eyes you can see many things which are desirable, provoking, arousing desire, which are lovely, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, sensually enticing and tantalizing things. So the Buddha said, if a bhikkhu, we should not take the word bhikkhu only for bhikkhus. As there were bhikkhus, the Buddha used the word bhikkhu. Bhikkhus were there all the time with the Buddha. So addressing the bhikkhus, the Buddha taught his Dhamma. Therefore, here also the Buddha addressing the bhikkhus said, if a bhikkhu, if a meditator, if a wise person, bhikkhu here means a wise person, whether a man or a woman, whether a monk or a nun, whoever, seeks delight in them. Seeks delight in what? The desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing and tantalizing things which you can see through your eyes. Whatever things. If he seeks delight in them, not only seek delight, but not only that, welcomes. When you see the object, you are quite mad. Then you welcome. He welcomes them and remains holding to them. His consciousness, then what happens? His or her consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. That is where clinging arises because of your desire, because of your craving, because of your urge, because of your thirst. Clinging, attachment arises. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana. That is the cause. That is the reason. It is because of clinging, attachment, grasping the object as mine, me, myself. Using the eyes. When we see the object, if we cling to the object, we cannot attain Nibbana. We cannot attain the highest bliss. That is the meaning. That is through the eyes. Then the Buddha further says, referring to other sense bases also, there are household sounds cognizable by the ear that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. That is referring to the ear. The same thing, if a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. Just because of this clinging, clings to them. That is the problem. Clinging is the problem. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana. That is clinging through the ear. Then said, referring to nose, there are householders smell cognizable by their nose that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana. This is how the Buddha explains. Now referring to the tongue, there are household tastes cognizable by the tongue that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana, the highest bliss. Referring to the body, there are household tangible objects cognizable by the body that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana, the highest bliss. Then, referring to the mind, there are household mental phenomena cognizable by the mind that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu seeks delight in them, welcomes them, and remains holding to them, his consciousness becomes dependent upon them and clings to them. A bhikkhu with clinging does not attain Nibbana. The Buddha said, this is the cause and reason, household, why some beings here do not attain Nibbana in this very life. So Nibbana, the highest bliss, is to be attained here in this very life. That is how the Buddha emphasized this. We don't want to go anywhere else to attain enlightenment, attain Nibbana. It is here in this very life. In this very life. It is to be understood clearly. Now, it is very clear that the reason, the cause for one not to attain enlightenment, the cause is clinging, attachment. As long as we have attachment, we are born again and again in samsara. We are then wandering in samsara. Once a certain Brahmin named Vacha came to the Buddha and said, Bhante, lately the wise people got together in the debating hall where they talked about the great teachers in this city. Referring to great teachers in this city, referring to the teachers one by one, they said when their great disciples pass away, they explain where they were born, they were reborn, where their rebirth took place. They explain this, other teachers. They themselves were famous teachers of the day. There were 6 different teachers, like Purna Kashyapa, Makkali Gosala, Pakuda Kachayana, Sanjay Belatiputta, Nigantanatha Putta, like that. They all explained, described where their departed great disciples were born. This man, Vacha, his question to the Buddha is, Bhante, Venerable Sir, they all were in agreement that Buddha never said this. Buddha never says, Buddha never explains where his immediate disciples were reborn after their death. After Buddha's immediate disciples like Venerable Sariputta, Moggallana, like Rahula, such great monks or nuns, when they passed away, Buddha never said where they were born? That was the question. So when he asked this, his question was why? The Buddha said clearly, Vacha, I explain, I appoint rebirth, rebecoming only to those who have clinging. That is why Buddha never talk about the rebirth of the departed great disciples like Venerable Sariputta Moggallana. Simply Buddha said they cut off their craving. They cut off their sansaric journey. They served fetters. They completely came to the end of suffering like that. Those are the terms Buddha used. Because they were not born again, as they had no clinging. So the Buddha talked about rebecoming of a person, whoever had clinging. So clinging, attachment, grasping is the problem. Clinging arises because of craving. Craving, dependent on craving, clinging arises. That is the teaching of the Buddha. So the craving is the problem. Craving is the cause of suffering. Once you remove craving, you remove suffering as well. So the Buddha in this manner pointed out the reason why beings are not attaining enlightenment, Nibbana, here in this very life. The cause is clinging. With clinging, nobody attains enlightenment. Then it's opposite. He wanted to know, then why some attain enlightenment? The Buddha explains the same thing. Let's see what the Buddha said. There are householder forms cognizable by the eye that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, this is how to practice. This is what we have to do. The bhikkhu does not welcome them and does not remain holding to them, then his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or clinging to them. As such, a bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana, the highest bliss, here in this very life. So that is the way to practice. When we see the object, when we hear the object, when we smell the object, when we taste the object, when we have tangible towards the object, when we think of an object, the Buddha's teaching is do not cling to that. If you cling to what happened, what is clinging? Clinging means you bring it inside. Once you bring it inside, you deposit in your mind, in the component, in the aggregate called the volitional formation aggregate. Once you deposit such cause, every cause has result. So you have to reap the result. What is the result? Result is rebirth. Rebirth somewhere. Rebecoming. Rebecoming takes place somewhere. Somewhere means in other realms or in this very realm. You are born again. Once you are born, you have to face decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and whole mass of suffering. That is the nature. So the Buddha explains, referring to the I, Buddha said, the practitioner should not seek delight in them, should not welcome them, should not remain holding to them. Then his consciousness, his or her consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. If you do not cling to, without clinging, you can attain enlightenment here in this very life. Referring to the ear, the Buddha said there are household sounds cognizable by the ear that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana, the highest bliss here in this very life. Then, referring to the nose, Buddha says there are household smell cognizable by the nose that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana here in this very life. Then referring to the tongue, there are household taste cognizable by the tongue that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana here in this very life. Then referring to the body, there are household tangible objects cognizable by the body that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana here in this very life. Finally, referring to the mind, The Buddha said there are household mental objects cognizable by the mind that are desirable, lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. If a bhikkhu does not seek delight in them, does not welcome them, and does not remain holding to them, his consciousness does not become dependent upon them or cling to them. A bhikkhu without clinging attains Nibbana here in this very life. This is what happens. If we do not cling to, we can attain enlightenment here in this very life. Let's understand a little bit about how should we practice this. How should we understand this? As you all know well, there are 6 senses. We all have 6 sense bases. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. The mind is the most important sense base. It is a sense base. Some people don't know this. They don't take mind as a base. But Buddha has very clearly said, there's a whole chapter in the connected discourses of the Buddha, where the Buddha gave hundreds of discourses referring to these 6 sense bases. That is what is called the mind science of the Buddha. Mind science of the Buddha is quite unparalleled. It's unique. Nowhere else you can find this. So the Buddha said, we have 6 sense bases. Through the 6 sense bases, they arise and pass all the time. They arise and pass 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates are arising and passing, arising and passing. When we think of something, when we see something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we taste or tangible or thinking, what happens? We perceive things with the support of our internal base and the external base. Dependent on these two, there arises consciousness in each sense. Consciousness arises. These 3 come together. That is called meeting of the 3. Meeting of the 3 is called contact. When there is contact, there arises feeling. What you see is a form which is called form of form. What you hear is itself is a form. The sound itself is a form. That is called form of sound. Form of sound. Then form of smell through the nose. Form of taste through the tongue. Form of tangible through the body. Then form of mental objects through the mind. Those are what you call form. What you feel is the form. Form which you have already taken inside. These are mental. Buddha's teaching is based on the mind, not the body. It is not external but internal. It is an introspection. Introspection. You to see in. You to develop your mindfulness, and you to understand things what is going on inside, not outside. The whole Dhamma is within. Whole Dhamma is within. So when you see this process in the eye, in the ear, in the nose, in the tongue, in the body, and in the mind, when you see this, you can understand these 5 aggregates. What are the 5? Form, feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness. All these 5 are there in the 6 sense bases. They are constantly arising and passing. In case of worldlings like you and me, what happens? We cling to these 5 aggregates. Clinging to 5 aggregates is suffering, the Buddha said. That is such a suffering. If we do not cling to 5 aggregates, then the Buddha said, as you are not clinging, you can attain enlightenment. Friends, that is the way. That is the real teachings of the Buddha. This is what you call the mind science of the Buddha. In this discourse, Buddha pointed out how one attains Nibbana or how one does not attain Nibbana. If one is with clinging, attachment, one cannot attain enlightenment. If one has no attachment, no clinging, one can attain enlightenment without any discrimination. In the whole teaching is very clear. In this dispensation, there is no discrimination. No discrimination in the teachings of the Buddha. The whole teaching is open to everybody in this society without any discrimination. Let's understand this wonderful teaching of the Buddha and practice this in our daily life so that we can realize that real peace, real happiness of Nibbana here in this very life, in this very world. May we all attain that supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.